What's up, everyone? Hope you're doing great today. I'm Paul Wilson Jr., founder and CEO of Paul Wilson Global Solutions, and I wanted to come on live today to have a very poignant and critical and timely discussion. If you've been following me, of course, online, a couple article I posted earlier this week, in particular on LinkedIn, on my Substack, and on YouTube. Basically, the title of the article was, "Are you an AI supplier?" So I figured I'd come in online and actually expound even a little bit more. Because when we cover this topic of AI, right, and again, for one, it's so broad, right, and it's still as new as it is evolving very quickly, and it's impacting buyer behavior, right, and procurement teams, procurement organizations, how they're making decisions, how they're assessing and evaluating suppliers. And the thing is, this evaluation is happening oftentimes long before the RFP shows up, right? It's almost happening in real time. And so if you're part of different registration platforms, and I won't call them out right now, but if you're aware, you know who they are. And so a lot of times your information is in these platforms, right? Or you've uploaded your information into a procurement database of some sort. This could be corporations or government. And as your information is either updated, whether it be stale or even as you're updating it over time, now there are systems that are going in and analyzing risk, right? They're analyzing suitability. They're analyzing, right, are you the right type of supplier for that company? And this is happening without you knowing it as a supplier, right? This is happening all behind the scenes. And so buyers are using these tools really to increase efficiency. Right. If we imagine what supply chain teams may have looked like 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, they were a lot larger. Right. They had a lot more responsibility in terms of the number of suppliers that they managed. And really, if you think about it, over the years, there have been a lot of different transitions in the supply chain space. Right. If you remember, anybody remembers the term, particularly on the government side, category management, right? And that changed a lot of things where they shrunk the size of supplier databases. So now you had these really, really big companies that had really big contracts, and now they had to manage all their subcontractors, right? So a lot of the work was subbed out then to really basically, I guess you could say, tier 2 suppliers. And there's been other changes over the years. I can remember all the way back to e-commerce platforms, right? When those entered into the procurement landscape, and they were going to change and revolutionize everything. And in many ways, it did change a lot. So there's been a lot of changes over time, right? And every one of those changes, right, that came up, there were warnings, there were issues, there were challenges, right? And suppliers had to shift with the times. Well, guess what? You're going to have to shift again if you haven't already started shifting. And that's really the focus really of this conversation and this discussion. And again, I encourage you, go read the full article. Again, it's on my LinkedIn, or go to my Substack, and you'll be able to get it at Paul Wilson Global. And so as we talk about an AI-ready supplier, the focus is not on you becoming a tech company, right? It's not about you having to, every single thing you do, you got to be doing it with AI. You got to, throw everything in the chat or the Claude and figure out your answers. That's not what we're talking about here. But what we are talking about is, how are you strategically thinking about deploying AI? How are you strategically thinking about responding to AI? As I mentioned, right, procurement companies and procurement teams are using more AI to do risk assessment, risk analysis, pre-evaluation of companies, doing a deeper dive on companies' financials, right? They're looking for red flags and using these tools, right, to efficiently kind of weed out, the bad apples. You don't focus on and respond to them, and you just get left behind. And that's the really what I'm really the urgency that I want you to be thinking about is, don't get left behind, because again, the train is already moving, right? And so if you haven't caught up to the train, you have to jump on a moving train, right? But again, it's not too late, right? It's not panic mode, but there needs to be a sense of urgency with, again, how you think about AI. Right? How, again, when you think about your teams, what is their knowledge base? What is their skill set? How are they infusing AI into their workflows? Right? How are you as an organization utilizing and thinking about AI to help you save money, cut costs, right? Identify more efficient ways of doing work, right? How are you using it as a more effective analytical tool, right, to how you analyze how you do your business? So again, becoming an AI-ready supplier is not just about you having to transform overnight and all of a sudden everything you do is flowing through AI. Because as a matter of fact, I think that would actually be a little dangerous, right? Because as much as we depend on AI these days, it's still not 100% accurate, right? And it's still not ready to take over every job within an organization. So it's not like you need to go out and fire everybody and then replace them with, AI agents, right? And AI bots. No, that is also not what we're saying too, but it is the focus on, are you running a digitally competent operation? Because that's the other thing about communications and the signals that you send to buyers and to buying organizations is, are you digitally competent, right? Can you have a digitally proficient conversation? And is your technology digitally competent with the businesses, with the organizations that you want to do business with, corporations and or government agencies? Of course, on the government agency side, right, there are some, in particular, if you want to deal with certain agencies like DOD and others, there are some pretty high standards, right, of the level that your technology has to be at, right, especially when if it's being integrated into their technology. And so as corporations and our agencies are looking for more ways to cut costs, right, more ways to be more efficient, having technology talk to each other is another of those ways to increase, right, that digital efficiency and to increase the impact and effectiveness, right, of being able to utilize technology, reduce costs, right, reduce hopefully error, especially when we're talking about communications right now from that standpoint. So are you digitally competent? Are you digitally literate? Right, and is your technology up to speed so you can again have interaction and in some cases interconnection with the organizations that you want to do business with? Also, are you using AI tools to increase efficiency? And you probably notice, hopefully I don't have to say this, this goes so far beyond just trying to figure out how to write an email, right? It goes so far beyond how to, create a nice little, generative AI image that you can kind of utilize for something creative, right? I'm talking about business efficiency, your operations, your systems, accounting, finance, right? Marketing, sales, and we can go through the list. But again, are you using these AI tools so that you can actually be more efficient and get more done in less time with less effort, because you're utilizing the tools that are available to you? And if you want to even think about it like this, whether you consider yourself I'm AI ready or not, just as a business, right? You want to take advantage of every tool that's out there to allow you to be more efficient, right? Because again, if you're a small business, right, you don't have $1 billion budget. Right? You have a less margin for error in terms of how you spend your money, how you use your money, how you utilize the resources that are available to you. So you have to be more precise even, right? I would even say more precise than even larger companies in terms of how you deploy your resources, whether it be human resources and or, financial resources from that standpoint. And so as you're thinking about the processes in your business. And I talk a lot about this in my scale ready system, is a lot of times people think about capacity building, getting bigger, as just I need more customers, or I have more money, or I can do more. But what they are not thinking about, what is the infrastructure, right? The internal systems and processes that allow you to do more, that allow you to get bigger customers and more customers, right? And have larger operations. Sometimes it is the menial, boring, behind the scenes, step 1, step 2, step 50, right? That's happening that needs to get better. If you have a process that takes 50 steps, I don't know what it is and what it might be, but it probably is not a great process. But how do you reduce that? If it is 50 steps, how can you reduce it down to 20, right? And can you use AI and technology to help you to do that? Or maybe you can reduce it down to 10. Or maybe you need to eliminate that process completely because it's redundant with another process. As people are thinking about building capacity and scaling, those are typically not the questions that they're having. The other questions they're just having is, how do we just serve more customers, but without thinking about, okay, well, what's the ramification of more customers? What's the consequence of more customers? We always think about the benefit of having more customers, but what's the consequences on the other side, especially if I'm not ready. But guess what? You can use AI tools to help you build that internal operations and systems and technology capacity from that standpoint. So that's another way to think about becoming AI ready and AI ready to deal with, again, this new procurement world, right, is your systems and processes, and how can AI help you increase efficiency behind the scenes. Another point is structuring your documentation properly. That's another one of the tools that buying organizations are using now. They may have been used in the past, but now it's just used even more so. Maybe those tools are even better now at scrutinizing documentation, whether that be your insurance documents, your certification documents, financial documents, maybe past projects that you've done, other types of compliance documents. So compliance, again, that's another opportunity for them to move you off the table and pick somebody else. If all things being equal, compliance is the one thing that you're not great at or haven't done well in the past, and somebody else is, right? And again, if they're having to make these difficult choices, and sometimes they're fast choices, that's the other thing about the tools. It's going to allow, it's not replacing the decision making, it's allowing the decision maker to make faster decisions. It's allowing the decision maker to actually have more information, right, and more precise information to choose. And sometimes it's a difficult choice between two really good choices, but if one is 1% above because, right, their compliance is better or something else is better, it allows the human to make a faster decision. And potentially, right, they're hoping that it's a better decision, right, with the information that they're getting. So, is your documentation structured properly? Do you have the right documentation? Do you have the right information in the documentation? And hopefully the documentation you created wasn't just something that you pulled off of the internet or pulled off of AI, copy, pasted it into something, and you called it, this is my compliance document, right? That's not going to cut it, right? Because I'm sure the tools are getting even smarter to know what was, AI generated and generic versus something that is very targeted and specific for your company. Again, those are things that you got to think about, where again, AI in this case, you don't want to just use it for a cut and paste tool, right? You don't want to just use it so you don't have to think about something. You want to use it because you're thinking about something creatively, intentionally, right, and directly. Now you're using the tool to help you generate the answer that you need, right, for something that's strategic, not something that's generic, right? And so again, that's how you have to improve your proficiency with these tools. Another point, right, reducing compliance errors, right? So we talk about having the documentation, but a lot of times what gets companies in trouble is they won the bid, they won the contract, but now executing on the contract, now you're having compliance errors in that, right? You didn't, maybe it's not the right quality or the right quantity or on time, or the documentation with the delivery wasn't there, because they're tracking those things too. Because the goal, right, if you're a business, is not just to get the first contract, it's to get the second, third, fourth, and fifth. But if you get the first one and don't execute well, and again, in many cases, it's not that you're not executing in the area of your craft. It's not that the product itself, right, didn't execute, or the service didn't execute. Sometimes it's the other things that are connected to the delivery of the product or service. Is your customer service, right, not where it should be? Again, I already mentioned documentation. So those are some things that you have to think about in terms of compliance. How are you potentially using AI tools to help make sure that you're compliant with all the requirements that, right, of a contract? Right? Because again, the goal is not to stop at the first one. It's that you do such a great job that they want to continue to give you business, but that can be cut off quickly if, again, you're not compliant with everything that they need you to be compliant. And of course, that's after you got the contract. But sometimes compliance happens also during the RFP process, right? Or prior to. And so if they're using tools to catch errors earlier, so that they don't make an error after selecting you, right? Because again, they're trying to weed you out. Just like, if you want to think about it like this, how HR systems and tools and organizations have been using for years, right? Tools to kind of weed out resumes that didn't align, right, with with the job description. So they're looking for ways to make it easier by the time it gets to the humans, right, to have a better selection and fewer people that are closer to the right people that they want to select. So it's not like this technology hasn't been around before. And as a matter of fact, HR systems have been doing this for years, long before we started using the term AI. Right. And so a lot of what we're even calling AI now is really just enhancing, maybe doing things faster than things that have already been done. And maybe, again, they just weren't being done as quickly or maybe as thoroughly as in the past. So, yes, you in many cases are being weeded out long before the RFP shows up, where you may not even get an invitation to the RFP and you don't know why. But again, these are some of the reasons why companies will be excluded from opportunities, because, again, if you're a purchasing organization and you have limited time, you have limited resources, right? You have a lot of deadlines coming up. Recently, I talked to a procurement leader that said that she was managing 7 different RFPs at one time. So if you're managing that many RFPs at one time, guess what? You don't have all day, every day to look at 30 suppliers for each one of those things and manually go through which one is the best one and do the manual score and all that. No, you're trying to get down to the best 2 or 3. And at that point, all right, let's have some discussions. Let's as a team come and look at this and see which one is the best one. They're not going to do that with 30, right? So or 300 even, right? They're going to use the tools and the systems to narrow it down. And now that we get down to that final group now, right, we'll engage in order to make a choice. So again, they're crunched for time. They're crunched for resources too. So you have to know that going in to make sure that you got all your I's dotted, T's crossed. And you may need some AI to help you dot all your I's and cross all your T's, because again, you have limited time, you have limited resources. All right, let's hit another one. Improving margin through automation. Any business, if you are managing your business well, you're always looking to improve your margins. At least you should be. That is your profit margins, right? How much you bring in minus how much goes out the door and what's left over. How do you continue to increase your margins? And many times what reduces your margins is waste. Wasted time, wasted money, wasted resources, wasted opportunities, right? Pursuing things you shouldn't have been pursuing, but if you had a more strategic eye for it, you'd have known, leave that one alone, pursue this over here, right? Picking the wrong people on your team, right? Oftentimes we think about corporations and what they're doing, and sometimes it's the big bad corporation. No, some of the things that they're doing, you should be doing too, right? If you're going through a hiring process, are you efficient? And when, again, in this case, using automation to improve your time margins and your profit margins, if you have to select people, right? As you are putting your pricing together for your products or services, as you are designing your marketing and sales campaigns, right? How are you using automation to manage your customer service, to manage your customer support? So AI being infused in all these things allows you to increase your margin. Why? Because it should make you more efficient. It should allow for less labor hours focused on those things, because you want to use the labor hours for the most intelligent things, right? You want to use for the most critical things, for the most creative things, for the most interpersonal things that need to happen between you and a customer or a client. That's what you want to save your people for, right? For the most part. And so if you can improve your margins through automation by allowing, again, different AI tools to speed up certain things, make certain decision making more efficient, more effective, research and things like that, that allows you to shift your people resources right to other high value areas and allows you to save money. And then hopefully on the other side, if those people are switched to more high value activities, they're actually making you more money, right, on the front end. So now you're hitting it from both sides. Use the people to help you generate more revenues on the front end, right? Use the automation to decrease your expenses on the back end. And guess what? Now your margins are being hit on both sides in a positive way in order to increase it. So this AI thought process, again, is not about, again, also, and let me say this too, it's not about just replacing people. Because just because you replace people with AI bots or AI agents doesn't mean it works, right? You still have to be very intentional and strategic about how you manage. Again, it's another resource. Just like you would manage time, money, people, AI, just put it in another box, right? But how do all these things interact and interrelate that allows you to be more efficient and more effective? And then lastly, at least for this part right here, is speaking the language of data. I've already been talking about that a little bit, but again, if you are having conversations with buyers and decision makers, you have to speak data, right? That's a language that you have to get used to. And in the context of the product or service that you sell. So let's put it like this. You have to be able to speak in KPIs, right? You have to be able to speak in ROI. You have to be able to speak in deliverables and getting away from vague statements like we're good at what we do, right? Well, how good? Did you reduce, how much did you reduce the time to get something done? How much did you increase the profit margin of your clients or customers? How many more turns of that inventory were you able to get because of your solution? How many more customers grew by % month over month because of the solution that you implemented, right? That's being able to speak data, right? Or KPI, right? Or whatever else that's in that world. And again, if you aren't able to effectively do that, again, relevant for your business, don't just be making up stuff, right? What's relevant for your industry? What's important to that buyer? What are their goals? What are they trying to achieve, right? What challenges do they have? And how does the language of the data speak to them and their challenge, right? Are they looking to create more efficiency? So how does your product or service speak specifically to that? Are they looking to save more time? Are they looking to acquire more customers? Are they looking to integrate more technology and allow that technology for them to be more efficient? So does the language that you speak in regards to your product or service, does it match what their needs are in the context of how they need to hear it, right? Don't just tell them I'm better than your competitor. Then, right? Better how? What does that even mean? Oh, okay, well, we reduced errors by 15% below the industry standard. Okay, now we're talking, because now that's something now it gives me context, but also lets me know that you know what you're talking about, because you know what the industry is. You're tracking your own data. You're measuring your own data against what the industry says, right? And you've been able to have a track record with your customers to show that this is the impact that we have, because not only are we paying attention, we're capturing it, and now we can even communicate related to it, right? And again, this stuff may sound a little complex, but that's why the tools and systems are there, and there's resources, right? Myself including being one of those resources that can help you think in that vernacular, if you will, of how to communicate the value that you have. And here's the thing, so many businesses have value. The issue is not that you're not producing value or that you're not producing impact. Some of you just don't know how to communicate it effectively. Some of you aren't speaking the language of data, right? You're not speaking the language of outcomes and the language of impact. Your language is so vague, it's not communicating that you have a strong sense of the data, and maybe you don't, right? So let's start there. Let's just be honest. If you don't, you don't, right? And let's figure that part out. But let's say you are capturing data and you're just not communicating well. Okay, well then we can work on that part, right? How do you communicate it in a way that buyers and buying organizations understand and recognize and can connect, right, with the problems that you're solving, how you're solving them, and how you're measuring the value of the problems that you're solving. And so, yeah, that's being AI ready, right? That's being an AI ready supplier. And again, I'm going to jump on here probably definitely several more times to have more conversations and talk specifically in key areas. But I at least wanted to come on here today, start a conversation, and see where this conversation went. I'm clicking on here just to check, just in case I may have some comments or questions in here. If not, I'm going to keep rolling, just maybe share a few closing thoughts as we close out. No, I think I'm good for right now. So here's something that I want you to walk away with. Again, something very practical. And here's, again, really just a practical solution that you can consider, right? We talk about suppliers, right? Small businesses who have to bid, right? And again, that's one way of getting contracts. There's other ways of doing unsolicited proposals. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Talk about right now just the bidding process, getting RFPs, right? Whether it be with corporations, whether it be with government agencies, that could be local, that could be, statewide, it could be federal, right? It's the RFP process. One of the most challenging things for small businesses in an RFP process is to figure out, should I even pursue this RFP? I downloaded it from the website. I went to the pre-bid meeting. I'm studying it. It's about 50 pages long, right? Or however long it is. It's got all these requirements in it. And it's that kind of go or no go. I'm not sure what to do from here. And I could spend a lot of time. And again, none of these are guaranteed, but let's say I have 3 RFPs sitting in front of me, right? And if I have a small team, I'm going to probably have to choose, right? Probably not all 3, right? Or even if I do all 3, the quality of what I produce may not be great, especially depending on the timelines of these, right? So these are all decisions that businesses are having to make every day, and they can be extremely challenging, right, when deciding what to pursue, how to pursue, and if I evaluate it, how do I put myself in the best position when I complete it? So one of the things that I've actually been working on specifically solves that problem. It's called Bid Fit IQ, right? It's a tool that's going to allow you to literally take an RFP document and any associated documents, upload it to the platform, and literally in less than 5 minutes, give you an output and some recommendations of go, caution, no go. And not just from that context, based on your business profile, the business profile information that you submit to it, it's actually going to give you some more in-depth recommendations based on how you should approach that RFP in terms of how you should write it, the type of language you should use, whether you should approach it as the tier 1 or maybe as a subcontractor tier 2, and you go find a tier 1 to partner with you. And so it's a tool that's going to help you save time and money in terms of stop chasing the wrong RFP just because I'm trying to play the volume game, right? Which is a very hard game to win when you don't have a lot of volume that you can handle, right? But when you're able to actually say, you know what, out of these 10 opportunities, 3 of these are go, 4 is caution, 3 no go, right? That gives you some more strategic insight that allows you to make more efficient decisions, more timely decisions, but also maximize the actual time you're going to spend on the ones you're actually going to pursue. And so the higher quality answer that you can input there, the higher chance that you have to win, right? All things else being equal. So I'm going to drop it down in the chat. Bid Fit IQ, it's live right now. As a matter of fact, if you go out there and register for it, you can actually get 2 free RFP reviews with some very in-depth insight that's going to allow you, again, to give you some actionable information to know whether or not you should pursue that particular bid opportunity. So no, it's not going to write the bid for you, right? And again, whatever decision that it tells you or recommendation it gives you, you still have the choices as the right leader of your organization whether or not you're going to pursue it. But at least you have another set of information that you can digest in order to determine where best to deploy the resources for your company, right, in terms of pursuing those bid opportunities. Again, it works for corporate bids and for government agencies also. So I highly encourage you, again, if you are in this bidding cycle and you're constantly looking at bids and assessing RFPs and figuring out, you're going to deploy your resources. Again, this tool is designed specifically for you as that growing small business. And maybe you've already won some contracts, right? And maybe you're looking for bigger contracts. But maybe also, again, across your desk is laid out, you got 5 RFPs that you're looking at. You don't have a big sales team. You may have 1 or 2 people and you may be part of that sales team. And you're looking for something that's going to help streamline your efforts, streamline the activities that you're doing around customer acquisition in particular. Again, as you're pursuing RFP opportunities. Again, this is a tool, very simple, very straightforward, right? And give you some very direct, actionable feedback that you can take directly into the next step that you do. You may decide, I'm going to go pursue this and now have some more insight on how to most effectively get it. Or it may be a situation where, nope, I'm going to hold off on this now. And here's the other great thing about it. It's going to show you gaps that, again, when you put your business profile in, it's going to compare it to your business profile, some gaps that you may have in your business of why it said no-go. It's not going to say no and not give you other information. It's going to give you a no-go and even the caution that says, hey, think about these things. Look at this area of your business, right? You may want to work on this area of your business, strengthen this area, enhance this area, because next time you want to be able to have a green for go, right? Or this is just way so far out of your area of expertise or area of interest that you don't even waste your time doing that because your time is valuable and precious. So Bid Fit IQ is the tool that you just want to log into. Go check it out. I'll drop it down in the comments in the chat so you can get to it. But again, you go sign up and register, you actually get your first 2 reviews for free. So you might as well check it out and try it out and see if it's a benefit for you, because again, there's some immediate value that you can use for your next RFP, or maybe something that's literally sitting on your desk right now, and it's very easy to upload it. Literally in less than 5 minutes is going to give you some strategic information that you can decide on. So again, it's been great being here today, and like I said, I'm going to be doing this on an ongoing basis, because again, I think these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having. And I'm also looking forward to, I'm going to bring on some guests too, especially those who have had a lot of experience in this space as it relates to contracting, RFPs, engaging with buyers, going through that business development process, that sales cycle, and trying to close down that cycle, right? Make it shorter. Win some opportunities that maybe don't even show up right on the RFP list because they're unsolicited proposals. I'm excited to talk to you more about that, because again, RFP cycle can be very uneven, right, and unpredictable. But that doesn't stop you from being proactively engaging buyers and buying organizations and decision makers with solutions that they weren't even looking for, but you showed up with the right solution at the right time, and now you got a contract that never even turned into an RFP. That happens so often, actually more often than you realize. And a lot of people grow very profitable businesses with unsolicited RFPs because they're not waiting around for the next RFP that may or may not be the thing that they're looking to sell, right? Or they're looking to offer. The timing maybe off, or all the other good stuff. So if you have benefited from this, whether you watched it live or you watched it on the replay, again, drop a note down in the comment. I love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, and your experience. What has been your experience to this point as it relates to companies utilizing AI, buyers utilizing AI, right, in their role of decision making? Again, risk analysis, risk assessment, risk reduction, supplier, compressing those supplier lists, excluding potentially suppliers from bidding opportunities. If you've had experience with that, I'd love to get your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to get your feedback, and maybe we'll have you on as a guest on one of these lives coming up, so that way people can literally hear what's really happening in real time. Because again, we're all on this journey together, right? I'm a small business, right? I'm working, engaging with corporations and government agencies and incubators and accelerators also. So I'm actually walking this journey with you. But fortunately, I've walked this journey for a long time. It's been about 20 years that I've been in this space around contracting and supply chain and designing programs for supply chain, designing programs for small business to win contracts. And then I've seen success at every one of those stops that I've done. And so now I'm just excited to be able to kind of bring these thoughts to you here. But again, we didn't have AI 5 years ago, at least not with that label on it. We didn't have AI 10 years ago, right? And so we're in a new era, but this era is here. It's not coming, it's here. So you need to make some immediate decisions, right? Have some urgency with becoming an AI-ready supplier, so you can win all the contracts you want to win, get the capital that you need to build a sustainable business, right? Hire the people that you need to hire, build that legacy business that you want to build, and have the impact that you want to impact. All right, the impact that you want to have. All right. So also, if you want to reach out, please connect with me. If you're not already connected with me on LinkedIn or Facebook, or even Instagram over there. But I spend most of my time on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. So I look forward to connecting with you. Of course, you can reach out and find my company, paulwilsonglobal.com, for any information about our Scale-Ready Supplier system and program, as well as our current Scale-Ready Supplier Launchpad, which is a learning experience that allows you to take a deep dive and unpack the areas of your business that buyers are paying attention to, even if you don't realize it. Your connections, your competencies, your capacity, and your capital. You need to close gaps in all those areas to make sure that you're sending the right signals to buyers, so that when you're ready to do business with them, they're ready to do business with you. All right, so until next time, I'm Paul Wilson Jr. It's been great being here, and I will connect with you again very, very soon. Hi, I'm Paul Wilson Jr., founder and CEO of Paul Wilson Global Solutions, and welcome to the Scale-Ready Scorecard, your first step in scaling your business with clarity, confidence, and purpose. If you're here, it means you're serious about scaling your business. but not with guesswork, but by understanding exactly where you are and then what you need to grow. The Scale Ready Scorecard is a simple yet powerful assessment to help you uncover your organization's strengths and the areas that need particular attention so you can build a strategic plan that actually works. In just a few minutes, you'll get a customized report providing a detailed overview of your readiness and the most essential scaling drivers. Once your results are in, you'll instantly see where you're thriving, what may be holding you back, and practical steps you can take right now. So if you're ready to grow your business with intention, ready to make smarter decisions, and ready to scale with confidence, let's get started. Click the button below, take your scorecard, and let's turn your potential into progress. Thanks for being here and welcome to your scaling journey.